So, most of the time when I tell a story time on this channel about school or a teacher or just something that happens to me in school, usually it's from like high school era or like maybe middle school. But this story time takes place back in elementary school and then long afterwards. So I hope you enjoy it. It's a crazy one. Leave a like on the video if you enjoy it. Let's get into it. So today's story time all takes place back in 4th grade. Yeah, 4th grade, from what I remember, was a pretty cool year. I mean, it was elementary school, so it's like you're just basically a kid having fun. Even at school, like you have fun. At least in my opinion, that's what I did. Maybe I should have paid attention more. I don't know. But yeah, elementary school was cool. And 4th grade, I had this really cool teacher. We're just going to call her Mrs. Smith, okay? So Mrs. Smith was a very nice lady. I remember people were excited to get to 4th grade just to have her class. And back in the day, at least in my school, we only had one teacher the whole day. Like, we didn't switch classes like you do in middle and high school. So yeah, in elementary school, we just had one teacher. So she was the shit. I was really happy to have her as a teacher. No complaints, really. She was also younger than most of the teachers at my elementary school, which meant she just could relate a little bit more to the kids, I feel like. And yeah, she was cool. Now, there was one other thing about Miss Smith that I noticed as a child, and it didn't really hit me until I was older. Every time Miss Smith used to come into school in the morning, she used to smell funny. And when I say that, I don't mean like bad. I don't mean like she smelled like she didn't take a shower or like she just rolled around in shit. Like, she literally just smelled like kind of like a skunk smell. Now, as a kid, I didn't really understand that. I was like, why does Miss Smith smell like skunk every morning? Like, what's up with that? And I remember one time I even asked my mom, I was like, Mom, why does like my teacher reek like skunk? And she was like, I don't know. And she was really awkward about answering that question, so I didn't really understand. Well, one morning in 4th grade, I came into school and Mrs. Smith wasn't there anymore, which was really weird. I was like, where did my teacher go? Like, where's my 4th grade teacher? And the rest of the class was really sad too, because she was an awesome teacher and she was probably the best teacher in the whole school. So like, we obviously missed her. But we thought, you know what? She's probably sick. She'll be back in a couple days. Well, fast forward like 4 days later, she's still not there. The next week rolls around, she's still not there. Next week, still not there. And after about 3 weeks, we were told by our parents that Mrs. Smith was not coming back, which was really weird. We're like, why would she get fired or why would she quit? Like, I thought she was a good teacher. Like, we were all just really confused and kind of hurt about it. And I remember after my mom broke the news to me that she wasn't coming back, I was like, why? Like, what happened? And she was like, the school and her had a disagreement and she just wanted to seek work elsewhere. That's what my mom said. And me being a curious kid, I was like, what kind of disagreement? And she was like, just like professional stuff. Like, it was about teaching. And I was like, oh, okay. And I didn't really question it. I should have, but I didn't. And I remember the whole rest of that year, it sucked. Our substitute teacher sucked. She was mean as fuck. She was nothing like Mrs. Smith. I'm not going to lie. The rest of 4th grade kind of sucked because of her. And I hope that you guys never have a teacher like the substitute ever, because she sucked. Well, fast forward to after 4th grade and even after 5th grade, okay? 6th grade. At this point, I'm in middle school. I'm at a completely different school. And one of my friends from my old elementary school is at my middle school now. So, like, he's the only person from my elementary school that I recognized. And he was, like, my first friend in middle school because I knew him from elementary. And I remember on the first day of 6th grade, I went up to him at his locker. And I was like, yo, what's up, man? Like, long time no see. And he was like, oh, what's up, dude? Like, you're here too? And I was like, yeah. And he's like, yeah, man, I'm not going to miss that school. Like, I'm actually really happy to be out of there. Too much drama. And I was like, drama? Like, what do you mean? And he's like, just like with the teachers, like that one teacher got drug busted and then this happened. And I was like, wait, slow down. Drug busted? He's like, yeah, dude, Mrs. Smith? And I was like, huh? He goes, you didn't know? Like, your parents didn't tell you? I was like, no, what'd she do? He's like, oh, dude, come here. And he opens his iPod Touch and he goes on Google and he searches up our like school district and the teacher's name, Mrs. Smith. And he pulls open this article. And it's literally an article about how Mrs. Smith's house got raided by the police or like the DEA or something. She literally had her house completely raided and they found multiple dozens of marijuana plants. Mrs. Smith was growing mad weed in her basement. That explains the smell. That explains everything. And I looked over at my friend and I'm like, yo, why did she have this many weed plants? He's like, keep reading. So I keep reading, and it looked like from the article, from what I could read with my 6th grade brain capacity, it seemed like she was growing the weed to not only smoke it, but sell it. Like, if you're growing that many weed plants, odds are you're selling it to people. And back then, weed was still extremely illegal in New York. Like, if you were caught with, a plant or 2 plants or a bunch of plants, like, you get in trouble. So after I read this article, I hand my friend back his iPod, and he's like, bro, did your parents really never tell you about this? Like, what did they tell you? And I was like, bro, my mom told me that, like, there was a work disagreement, and, like, she found other work. Like, I did not know it was because of this. And he's like, dude, yeah, it was serious. So after this, I was really, really just confused. I was like, what happened to Mrs. Smith? Like, where's she at now? Like, I need to know. So I remember after that day, after school, I went home, I jumped on our family computer, and I started Googling. I was looking up Mrs. Smith's name. I was looking her up on Facebook. I was trying to find out, like, how long she went to jail for. I really wanted to know, like, what happened to her. I want to know if she was, like, still out and about or if she was just in jail forever. And I couldn't find anything. I just kept finding that same article about her getting arrested and her house raided, but nothing about how long she was going to jail for or, like, her court stuff, like, nothing, right? Until a few years later, okay? So 9th grade, freshman year, I'm at the store with my mom, and I'm in line to check out with her. And I turn around to grab a soda out of the fridge at, like, the front checkout line thing. And I see Mrs. Smith with her cart and her groceries, and she sees me, and we both recognize each other. And you could tell both of us were, like, kind of scared to say hello first because, we both knew. And I was just like, hey, Mrs. Smith. And she goes, Austin, I thought that was you. And my mom turns around and she's like, oh, Mrs. Smith, like, how you doing? And we're, like, awkwardly kind of, like, saying hello and catching up. And my mom asks her, what are you doing nowadays? And she's like, oh, I work at this, like, company. And she basically told us she's, like, the receptionist for this big business downtown. And honestly, that's pretty impressive. To come out of an arrest and a huge drug bust with a better job, like a better paying job than your previous job, it's pretty damn impressive. But, yeah, we're just catching up, and my mom's like, all right, we gotta go, honey, like, we gotta leave. And my mom starts leaving because, she had checked out and paid for her groceries. And me being a stupid freshman, 9th grader with no social awareness whatsoever, I'm like, Miss Smith, before I leave, really quick, did you go to jail for, like, a super long time? And you can tell that question just caught her completely off guard. And she was just like, oh, I didn't go to jail for long. It was only a few months. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. Well, have a good one, Mrs. Smith. And she's like, yeah, you too, Austin. And I, like, turn around and follow my mom out. And my mom's like, did you just ask her how long she went to jail for? And I was like, yeah. And she goes, you know about that? And I was like, yeah. And you knew about it since 4th grade and didn't tell me. And she was like, yeah, because you were a 4th grader. And I'm like, yeah, well, I'm a 9th grader now. You should have told me, like, a couple years ago or something. And she was like, oh my, like, what the hell? And I was like, whatever. And she's like, you don't ask people about stuff like that. Like, that's rude. And I was like, all right, sorry, geez. And she's like, yeah, you should be. And after that, we walked out of the store, and I never saw Mrs. Smith again. As far as I know, she's probably still living in my hometown and working that same job. I don't know. But hopefully she's doing well. And marijuana is legal now in the town that me and her are from. So maybe she's working at, like, a dispensary or something. I don't know. But either way, I hope she's doing well. And moral of the story is, if you live in an area where weed's illegal, don't grow a bunch of plants and sell it. You could get in a lot of trouble. She's actually so lucky she went to jail for, like, a few months and not longer, because a lot of people in my town back then got busted for having plants and went to jail for way longer. So yeah. But yeah, guys, I hope you enjoyed this story time. If you did, please leave a like on the video. I'd really appreciate it. Feel free to leave your story times in the comments down below. And subscribe if you're new. I'll see you all later. Peace.
Lay down. I be in LA. I be on my way. I be chilling.